Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Jeremy Smith. I'm the Communications Director here at GrantStation. I'm glad you could be with me today for this quick tour of the GrantStation website with a focus on our Canadian grants area. For people that don't know a little bit about GrantStation, it's a set of tools and resources to help organizations identify and secure grant dollars. GrantStation is a publishing company. Research and writing are our skill sets, not software development, and we pride ourselves on publishing current and forward-looking information about grantmakers. Now, all the grantmaker profiles here on GrantStation, both government and private, are, for lack of a better description, what we call in the game. These are grantmakers who are actively accepting requests from a variety of nonprofits. You may have used other services where you do your research and get hundreds of returns, leaving you with a long list of potential funders to screen. Now, our job is to pre-screen grantmakers, so the time you spend on researching generates a list of grantmakers that will truly accept a request to fund your organization's program or project. We've been in business for over a decade, and we have about 20,000 members and 200 different business, government, and nonprofit partners. Now, in addition to our databases here on the website, we also publish 2 different newsletters that highlight upcoming funding opportunities. The first is the GrantStation Insider, and that comes out weekly and has 12 distinct opportunities for U.S. nonprofits. But if you're interested in looking for Canadian grants, you'll probably want to definitely subscribe to the monthly GrantStation International Insider, and that features 8 international funding opportunities. That includes a number of opportunities for Canadian grant seekers. Now, these newsletters are delivered directly to you, and they're also available in the member area of our website. So let's go ahead and start and log into the website and see what you can accomplish using GrantStation as your grants research tool. You can log in right over here on the right hand side. I'll go ahead and log in at this point. And once you're logged in, you'll see that it welcomes you, lets you know when your membership will expire. You can also change your username or password, and you also see on the left hand side, that you are logged into the website. Now, throughout our website, we have a really straightforward layout and very easy to understand setting. Here on the main page, we have multiple announcements available to you. And also here at the bottom, you can see we have funding snapshots. And this is where you can go ahead and take a look at what one of our standard records looks like. So we'll go ahead and start by clicking on the Metlife Foundation Afterschool Innovator Award. You'll definitely want to check our front page at least every week because all of our announcements are updated weekly. And as with all of our announcements, this information is all carefully researched and written, providing you with an up-to-date information on current grant opportunities. Once you click on any of those links, it will pull up a listing similar to this one. For instance, you can see in this particular listing the address of the organization, followed by any contact information, the type of organization it is, followed by its specific grant details, who's eligible, the areas of interest. Then at the bottom you can find out when this article and this particular opportunity actually was last updated as well. If I scroll back up to the top, you can see that on the right hand side is our online education section. This is all the webinars that we offer. They are open to the public, and you do not need to be a member of GrantStation to take a webinar. You can take them individually or as a group, and the group rates are quite affordable. So you may want to consider getting a few people together to take a webinar in one specific location, making this a very cost-effective training. To move back to the main page, we'll simply click at the top link right here, which is Return to Main Page. And now we're back at the main page of GrantStation.com. Now, GrantStation itself is divided up into 4 easy-to-understand areas. The first is our search area. This is where you'll do all of your different grant research in the U.S. grants, international grants, and Canadian grants category. And then we have our Write section. This is where we have specific articles that are of interest to grant seekers that walk you through the process of writing a grant, from getting started to the letter of inquiry to the specific grant proposal, and then how to deal with revisions and editing for your particular grant. And finally, we have our Learn section. This is where you can find a large number of articles, including our interactive tool, the Grants 2020, and the articles Creating Time and Grant Seeking Calendar and In-Kind Gifts. And below that, we have our Read section, which is where you can find archives of our 2 newsletters, the GrantStation Insider and International Insider, as well as archives for our Track Success articles. Scrolling back up to the top, I'm going to go ahead and show you our research area, or our search area, and we're going to go ahead and click on U.S. grants to begin with. And actually, we're not going to click on U.S. grants because I'm going to show you one thing right before that, and that in fact is our search guide. In our search guide, we believe that there are 6 easy steps to funding research. If you follow this approach, your success rate for identifying the right grant maker and securing grant awards should increase drastically. Now, the most important part of this process is to download the project description worksheet. It takes about 5 minutes to fill out. Once you complete this worksheet, and I recommend you complete it for each project, whether it's for a special project, for general operating funds, or for a capital campaign, this will keep your search focused and really becomes the first piece of an overall grant strategy for a program or a project. And again, these are really easy to follow steps that will really aid you in your research here at GrantStation. What's also important to note is that we also have a search terms page, and I'm going to go into that right now. And in particular, we have one that's available specifically for our Canadian grant section, and I'll show that to you in a little bit later on in the tour. Our search terms area is the key terminology used on our website, and that serves as a great guide when you're doing your research. This is the glossary that defines the terms we use in our areas of interest, types of support, in our U.S. Charitable Giving database, our international database, and our Canadian database as well. All these search terms are what we've used to classify all the numerous grants on our website. Now, to use this area, simply hit Control-F or Command-F on your keyboard. That's going to pull up the Find box. And every browser is a little bit different, but we have it built so it'll either be towards the top or the bottom of the page. In this instance, at the top of the page. What you can do at this point is you enter in a specific keyword to see which categories you're going to want to check when you get into the databases. So, for example, let's say you're looking for money to buy new playground equipment. We'll go ahead and type in the word playground. And as you can see, it jumps to that instance of playground. And you can see that playgrounds and play activities is located under the Parks and Recreation keyword. So when you're doing research, definitely type in Parks and Recreation, and that will pull up funds related to playgrounds and play activities. So basically, you do your search here, identify your keywords, write them down on your specific project description worksheet, and then go about and do your research. And this shouldn't take you longer than 3 to 4 minutes to do. And again, it serves as a really great basis for an overall grant strategy. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, you'll see a feature we have built into our whole website, which is called Back to Top. And this little top pointing arrow will take you back to the very top of the web page and the beginning of the website. So we have 3 specific sections that you can use in our search area. The first is U.S. grants, our second is international grants, and our third, where we're going to focus today, is on Canadian grants. And I'll show you the other areas just so you know what's there. So clicking on U.S. grants, you can see that we have our U.S. Charitable Giving database, and this is where you can find different funder profiles that include independent, family, community, and corporate foundations, corporate giving programs, faith-based grant makers, and various associations with grant-making programs. You can also find links to our federal grants and loans area. This is where you can find profiles of competitive financial assistance programs that's administered by the U.S. federal agencies and federal government. And finally, we have our state grants and loans area. This is where we have an index for each of our 50 states and the District of Columbia for U.S. federal state-funded agencies, state departments, and state-associated and state-funded agencies that offer financial and technical assistance programs. Our next area that you can do grant research within is our international grants section. Within this area, we have our International Charitable Giving database, and this is where you'll find profiles of several thousand international grant makers and funding opportunities. Also, you'll find our international federal programs. This is where we have various listings of U.S. government grant programs that provide support throughout the world, as well as our International Development Resource area, and then links to our International Insider. And I'll show you more on the International Insider a little bit later on in the tour today. For now, let's go to the area we're going to spend the majority of our time within, and that's Canadian grants. Within our Canadian grants section, we have 2 specific databases that you can use. The first is the Canadian Charitable Giving database, and this is where you can find profiles of private grant makers who give throughout Canada and also within particular provinces and territories, as well as our Canadian Government Grants and Loans database. This is where you can find information regarding potential government sources of financial and technical assistance. We also have our Canadian Insider. This is a collection of grant opportunities that we sent out back in 2012, and we've archived them here on our website for people who may be interested in going through and seeing what was offered at a previous date. At this point, though, we're going to take a look at our Canadian Charitable Giving database. So the way to use this database is very simple. You begin by choosing your continent and then your country, and within this particular database, you know that the Canadian section is a part of our international charitable giving, so everything is defaulting already to Canada. From here, you can narrow it down to a specific region to find funding within, and that would be funding for Alberta, or Manitoba, or say Nova Scotia, or Ontario, or Saskatchewan, or the Yukon Territory. And then you can add a specific keyword on top of that and find results that are based on that particular keyword. Now, there are multiple ways to search in this particular database as well. If you do a search for global funders, that'll find funding within at least 3 or more different continents. That would include possibly North America, Africa, and Europe. You can also do a search for continental funders, and that would be funding only within a specific continent, which would be in this case North America. You can further narrow it down to national funders, which would be within a specific country, and for our purposes it's already set to Canada. And finally, we have our regional funding, and this is where we can narrow it down to a specific region, such as Alberta, or the Northwest Territories, or Quebec. So what we're going to do now at this point is I want to talk a little bit about the records that we have here at GrantStation. We'll take a look at this one right here, the 4-H Canada Grants Program. When we update our records here at GrantStation, we gather up as much information as we can from the web, from reviewing any kind of IRS 990 form, their website, or any other kind of tax database. Then we draft a profile, and we send it directly to the grant maker who reviews it. Now, the question we ask the grant maker is not just, is this information correct, but also, are we capturing not only what you fund now, but what you plan to fund in the next year or so? And why do we do this? It's because we believe you're not so interested in what they've funded in the past. What you're interested in is what they will fund today, tomorrow, and into the next year. In short, will they consider funding your organization? The grant maker reviews this profile we provide them, they often make changes, and then they send it back to us. And then we do one more edit and then publish it on our website. This process results in grant maker profiles that are not like anything else you'll read about on the web, not even on their own websites. Our researchers are intent on publishing quality information that will make your job easier. This is information that we take pride in publishing, knowing that it is the right information. So if we look at an average record, we can see that the very top part takes you directly to that particular grant opportunity website. Then you can find a brief write-up of the opportunity, followed by who's eligible to apply for this specific opportunity, and then any kind of additional keywords that I mentioned earlier. And again, there are specific search terms available, and you can find a link right here to the international and Canadian charitable giving databases. And then finally, you see last updated at the bottom, which is the last time this particular record was updated by our researchers. Now, our records are constantly being updated and constantly going through changes. So many people may ask about GrantStation, like, well, why can't I find this specific opportunity? I know it should be out there. What we do is, since we do contact the grant maker directly and talk with them directly, we've discovered that many times they'll change their profiles, they'll change their giving, they'll change who they want to offer funds to, and if they no longer offer it to a wide scope and range of organizations, we remove them from our database. And if you have any questions about a specific grant opportunity that you can't find and you want more information on that, you can always contact us at GrantStation. We pride ourselves on our customer support. So simply sending us an email at info@grantstation.com or visiting our contact page, we'll be happy to help you and help you find that particular grant that you know should exist, but you're not able to find when you're doing your research. Now, talking a little bit about our specific database here, we have approximately 900 profiles of grant makers that provide support within Canada. Then we have another 700 grant makers that provide support globally. Now again, all these profiles are continually updated and date stamped so that you always know when the profile was last reviewed. So here on this main page, we're going to go ahead and do a quick search. We're going to start by putting in a specific search term. And in this case, we're going to put in, let's say, health. We're looking for health for seniors, funding for health for seniors. And we're going to click Get National Funders. At this point, when we scroll down, we can see that we're searching specifically within Canada using a keyword of health. And remember, our focus is on seniors. Well, if we hit Control F or Command F, we get our search box. And then if we go ahead and type in that keyword of seniors, we can see that that pops up right here. So we've now done a double keyword search, and we've found a really good opportunity for us to look closer at. If we click back to top, it takes us back to the top of the page. And let's modify this. Let's say we're dealing with hunger issues. But specifically, we're not looking at all of Canada, we're focusing in on one specific region, and let's say it's British Columbia. At this point, we'll click Get National. Well, actually, we'll click on Get Regional Funders, and this will give us funders specifically within British Columbia that use the keyword of hunger. And let's say our focus then at this point is dealing with homelessness. Well, again, we hit Control F and we type in that keyword of homelessness, and we can see it jumps to that instance. So now we're doing a double keyword search on these results and finding something that's a perfect match for our needs. Now if I click back to top again, earlier I was talking about clicking on Get National Funders. Well, now we're going to do a search nationally with the keyword of hunger. So by clicking Get National Funders, now we see giving exclusively within Canada using that specific keyword of hunger. Then we can narrow this down to, say, elementary or secondary schools. Again, by hitting Control F, we can type in elementary. And as you can see, it jumps to that instance and highlights the next instance of that particular opportunity. And then you can jump forward and backward into the page based on those specific keywords that you want to do. So we offer secondary keyword searches here using our International Charitable Giving database focused on Canada. So scrolling back to the top, what we can also do is look for funding that provides support throughout the entire world and within Canada. The way to do that is under our filter results for keyword, we simply type in Canada, and then under our searches here, we click on Get Global Funders, or specifically we can hit Get Continental Funders. But to start with, let's do Get Global Funders, and again, this is going to search in at least 3 continents that would include Canada. So by entering in that keyword of Canada, hitting Get Global Funders, now we're searching globally for a keyword of Canada, and we'll be able to find specific grant opportunities such as this one right here, which says specifically, the Foundation makes grants in countries where Foundation offices are located, including the following countries, which includes Canada. So this is another little trick you can use when you're using this database to find more funding opportunities that will fit with a specific need that you have. And then you can further search through this by adding Control F or Command F and adding a secondary keyword. So I hope you can see how easy it is to use this particular database. You simply enter in a specific keyword, do a search, and then find the results. So let's go ahead and do another couple searches here. Let's say we're looking for support within Ontario, and we want to do something involving elementary students. So simply entering Ontario, and then typing in elementary and clicking on Get Regional Funders will pull up regional funding opportunities with that keyword of elementary within Ontario. And then we can go through these specific listings and find an opportunity that works for us. One thing that you'll also find when you're in this database is there are some organizations that give on a national level, but also give specifically within Canada. For instance, this top result here, AMD's Changing the Game, offers funding within Canada, but also within international and within the US. So if you click right here, where it says to view this profile of this grantmaker in a new window, you can actually find a full profile of the AMD Foundation located within our US Charitable Giving database, and you can use this as a basis of a lot of your research as well. Many of our records within the Canadian database also have US profiles as well, so you can go back and forth if there's a link there that allows you to click that. In addition, as you can see in the actual record here, we have links to the eligibility information, knowing that this one is specifically available for nonprofit organizations and schools, as well as additional keywords that I mentioned earlier. These additional keywords may not necessarily show up in the description, but again, once you've identified them on our website, you can use them to do your research across our entire website. Now go ahead and click back to top, and let's do one more search. Let's say we're interested in working on a nationwide after-school program. So I'll type in after-school, and then we'll click on Country of Canada and choose Get National Funders. Scrolling down, we can see, looking nationally for after-school programs, here are all of our results. And we have 2 specific results that match our needs perfectly. And then we could further divide through them if we wanted to using a Control F or Command F search, but with 2 results, this is a great number to start with and begin doing our research. So again, using this database is very simple. Once you've identified the specific keyword that I showed you earlier, and you can find access to that right here from the main page, once you've identified your keywords, you can do all of your research right within GrantStation. So I'm going to click on Canadian Grants again, and this will take you back to our main Canadian Grants page. And now I'm going to show you our Canadian Government Grants and Loans. Now, within our Canadian Government Grants and Loans area, this website's maintained to provide members with a listing of national and provincial funded agencies, and provincial departments for each of the different provinces and territories of Canada that offer financial and technical assistance programs. Basically, to start, you choose a province or territory below, and then you can identify potential local resources available to your organization. So let's go ahead and click on Manitoba. As you can see, we begin with a picture of the flag, followed by the motto. Then we have a couple links at the very top. This is to help you with your needs statements, to identifying particular population statistics. Then at the bottom we have any specific links that take you to other forms of grant-based funding. And then you see the actual breakdown of the funding sources. We have it divided by federal and provincial funded agencies, provincial funded agencies, and provincial departments. Each of these links will take you directly to the specific page with any kind of funding opportunities available to various organizations. And this is a very handy resource that you have, and very unique also just to GrantStation. If you click on the Canadian Government Grants and Loans link right here, it will take you right back to the main page, and you could go into another province or territory and look for more federal funding. Moving back into our search area, we do have more in-depth tours available covering our U.S. grants and international grants tours, but the focus of this particular tour is just on our Canadian grants and seeing if GrantStation is a good fit for your particular organization. What I want to go ahead and focus on now is some of the other areas we have here at GrantStation. The first I want to show you is our Write section. Here we have 4 specific articles: Getting Started, Letters of Inquiry, the Grant Proposal, and Revisions and Editing. Each of these particular articles walks you through various steps of writing and rewriting and submitting grants. Getting Started, of course, walks you through the process of collecting everything you need to writing a grant. The second category that we have, Letter of Inquiry, is how to write a LOI, or Letter of Inquiry, which is sort of that essential step in securing a grant award. We also have the Grant Proposal. This is one of my favorite articles. It's an A to Z guide of the grant writing process, and it also has samples of award-winning grant proposals that you can download and then use as a reference when you're writing your own grants. And finally, we have a Revisions and Editing area. This is where you can find out how to modify your tone and style and streamline your writing in case your grant is denied. The next area we have is our Learn section, and within our Learn section we also have more articles that are more specifically geared to learning more about the grant writing and grant seeking process. In particular, we have 2 areas, or 2 articles actually. One is called Creating Time, and the second is our grant seeking calendar. Both of these are offered as webinars actually, and have proven to be so popular we've made them into articles. Creating Time actually deals with how to create time and make space for grant proposals. And there's some tricks that will help you organize your approach to grant seeking by really teaching you how to create the time to do the job and do it well. And also under our Learn section we have our grant seeking calendar. This is written by our CEO Cynthia Adams. And these articles focus on how to design and effectively use a grant decision matrix. And this really simplifies your grants research and helps you create project-specific grant-seeking strategies. In addition, under our Learn area, we have other articles about in-kind gifts, questions to ask a funder, how to deal with the US-based IRS Form 990, links to our online education section, and also our Grants 2020 interactive tool, which I'm going to go ahead and show you right now. This particular tool is an interactive visioning tool that helps you realize the grant's potential for your organization. All you'll need to do this is about 5 minutes and a copy of your operating budget, and then a breakdown of various grant awards according to the amount and source. And basically this will help you determine how your program or project will look going forward. And then you can use the same exercise for the next operating year, further in the future, or again for each project or a specific purpose that you need. You'll be able to project grant award amounts and various sources, and you'll be able to use the analysis that's provided, which I'll show you in just a second, from your very first exercise to help make these various projections. So we'll do a little mock-up one really quickly here. Simply click on Grants 2020 to get started. Then at the very top, we enter in the name of our organization or project. In this case, I'll simply put in my name. And then for my date range, I'll put in 2014 to 2015. At this point, I'll put in my budget. My specific project has a budget of $50,000, and I'll simply put in $50,000. You can use commas or not use commas, it's your choice. But if you have no income from a given source, simply enter 0. If you're not sure what goes in each category, we have a very handy pop-over question marks here, which explain each of these particular categories and what funds you would enter in each category. But let's say I got some money from global Grantmakers, no money from federal and national government, and let's say I got $12,000 from state or provincial and territorial governments, nothing from local, $500 from a community foundation, $1,000 from an independent foundation, nothing from a corporate, nothing from a corporate foundation, and from a grant and a club program I received an additional $1,500, and nothing from a religious grant maker. At this point, I simply click Run Analysis. And now I'll see my results. You can see the name of my organization, which is Jeremy Smith, and my particular projected date, 2014 to 2015, and then you see the breakdown. My total budget is $50,000 for the project, and my total grants is $16,000, and that means a percentage of my grants make up 32% of my operating budget. Then I can see a breakdown of my specific grants that show me where they're coming from and where and how they fit into the overall picture. And finally, the most important part is the analysis. This analysis changes based on the specific information I enter above, and it covers each of the different areas I entered funds within, such as the federal or national government, state or provincial government, and scrolling down, even independent and family foundations. This gives me a really good common sense guide of information that will help me when I'm trying to put together my grant strategy and figure out which areas I need to pursue stronger and which areas I should go ahead and focus less upon. If I scroll back up, what I can easily do is make some changes. Let's say I received some funding from corporate giving programs. We'll say this was $15,000, and from the local government I received $1,000 as well. If I click Run Analysis again, you can see everything changes. It changes on the fly quickly with you, and then our funding changes as well to show you what's the largest amount, what's the least large amount, where it's coming from, and then of course the analysis changes again based on the funding numbers that you entered. And this is based on our CEO Cynthia Adams' 35 years of grant application and grant research and grant seeking experience. So this is not exactly the rules, but these are really great guides to help you through your process of figuring out what will work best in your particular situation moving forward with your grant seeking strategy. Also at the very bottom of this, you can always go ahead and print this out, hand it out to your organization, and provide it to your fundraising board, and use it as really a rule of thumb for your future goals when you're trying to raise different sources of funding for your organization or for a given project. Go ahead and move back to our main page now, and move into our final area I want to talk about, which is our Read section. This is where you can find links to our International Insider and our GrantStation Insider, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the International Insider at this point. The International Insider is sent out monthly, and it has the latest information on grant makers and upcoming grant deadlines that will assist the serious international grant seeker. There are 8 specific opportunities available in every International Insider that goes out, and this is where we have specific opportunities available to Canadian-based grant seekers. And you can simply go through this, and remember earlier I was mentioning search terms and particular keywords. Well, those keywords also work within this particular database. So if you enter in the specific keyword, again using Control-F or Command-F, say elementary, and we just simply do a search for this, we have no specific entries that showed up. And that's good because we've now searched through the entire month and now there's no opportunities here. So we can go ahead and close this and go back to our International Insider, and then we can search through an entire archives and look for that particular keyword as well if we want. So there's lots of opportunities here within GrantStation to find funding that'll help your specific organization, in particular a Canadian-based organization, to find the right funding for your specific purpose. Now, if you want to take some more tours that we have, if you visit our tour page, you'll be able to find all the different things that we have available there. If you have more questions about GrantStation, understanding how it works and if it's the right fit for you, we have a collection of frequently asked questions available right here as well. And you can also learn more about our history and our individual staff that we have here at GrantStation. And finally, you can always contact us via our contact page. You can give us a call toll-free, you can fax us, or simply email us at info@grantstation.com. Or, of course, you can contact us directly. We each have our emails available here on the main website. I'm going to go back to the main page now by clicking on Return to Main Page. Again, I want to thank you for your time today and for taking this short tour of the GrantStation website with a focus on our Canadian grants section. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at info@grantstation.com. From GrantStation, thank you very much, and good luck in your grant seeking.